Exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a look.
What's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets and Rob. How is everybody doing right here in the car right after work, giving up the very latest on the Carlos Correa update and the latest that we've been hearing about the Mets and Carlos Correa. Is it close? Is it dead? Is there something going on that we don't know about just of yet? As much as we have heard mostly nothing on both sides of the table, where everybody has kept it close to the vest, has been very quiet, and now we're starting to get leaks from mostly the Boras end of everything. And now we're looking at Cohen just liking tweets that involve Correa's name, that the Mets are already good with or without Correa. There is so much that we have to go through when it comes to this. So it's going to be about a half-hour stream, guys, not too long. Again, I'm just getting out of work. I'm in the car right now. I wanted to do an update for everybody for the morning, and then later tonight we'll do a Mets Hot Stove Live at 6 o'clock, and I will be introducing all you guys to Baseball Mike, who is going to be a co-host of the show every Sunday, 6 p.m. The Shea Bridge Show, as we're gonna call it. So you're gonna get acquainted with him. And again, he's a good guy. He knows his stuff, and it's gonna be a lot of fun having two different opinions on this channel, along with, of course, you guys as well. So before we get started, guys, don't forget to please hit on that like button. And if you're a new subscriber to the channel, say what's up in the chat. You will not be unnoticed on this channel. You will get a shout out, and just let me know if you're a first time subscriber. Let me know, and let me know where you're from as well. I'd like to know if you're a fan of the Mets or just a fan of another team, and where you are around the country or in another country. I always like to know where everybody is from. It's always fun to know that people are finding this channel from all across the country and the world as well. So here we go. And John, thank you. It's going to be a fun show. I guarantee you guys that. I'm telling you right now, we don't agree on everything with me and Mike. So it's going to be a very interesting back and forth. We're starting to do, which I'm trying to do something similar to, like they do with First Take, what they do with Undisputed, back and forth. I don't remember if you guys remember Around the Horn, all that other stuff as well on SNY, the back and forth debates, which is always fun. So with that said, what the hell is going on with Carlos Correa? Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, I think all this crap that we're hearing that has been leaked, and I guarantee you it's all leaked from the Scott Boras side of things. And the reason why I say that is because now it's a power push right now. Everybody want to get a little bit of leverage somewhere, somehow. When you get closer to an actual new deal, remember, it was the first deal was the 315 for 12 years. We've still heard that it could be the same with language in the deal, and it also could be a drastically different deal, which we heard a couple of days ago, and now we're hearing something else as well. So what is it? Why are things getting leaked out now? No, we're hearing that there's two teams, possibly it could be just one and the Twins, but the leverage is on the Mets side. The Mets can walk away from this deal anytime they want. And I do think they are going to. If this deal does not get done, probably in the next couple of days, I think they're going to walk. And I will not blame the Mets 100%. And you guys know, if you follow this channel, I want Carlos Correa. Trey Turner was the guy I wanted in the beginning, but a nice bonus would have been Carlos Correa. I said it was either one of those guys. I thought Turner would have been a perfect addition to this Mets team. Once the Phillies got him, I said, let's go get Correa. And I said that from the very beginning. I thought it was also a pipe dream considering the fact of what the Mets were doing when they were focusing so much on starting pitching and Brandon Nimmo. It didn't seem like that's what they wanted to do. But, of course, it really depends on what you can believe and what is just smoke. And I do think a lot of this stuff that you hear is smoke. Are they talking to other teams? I don't think they necessarily called up another team that says, hey, things are not working out with the Mets. Let's talk. It's not in the Mets situation where the Giants wanted more time to go over the physical, and Boras was like, no. We're going to text Cohen and see if he's still interested. This is different. This is teams checking in and calling Boras and seeing what's going on. He's not signed. It would be stupid for a team that needs a player, either a shortstop or a third baseman, that wouldn't be doing their due diligence if they would call up Boras and seeing what's going on. If you can find, if you can get Boras and Correa mad at the Mets enough about the situation that's going on, whatever it might be, even if they're in the wrong, all you need is one team that says, you know what, we're going to put this deal on the table. If it's a 6-7 year deal, 280, 270, 250, whatever it is, they might just take that deal. And listen, I'm not on the side of Correa. I'm not on the side of the Mets at this point. I think both of them dug themselves a grave where it's going to affect them either money-wise or amount of years. If somebody's going to budge, it's either going to be Correa or it's going to be the Mets. The Mets are going to stick with the deal with a little bit of language in there to protect them, or Correa is going to budge and say, all right, we'll do the 9 years, 270 or whatever it might be. If you check the video that I did a couple of days ago with the Carlos Correa update, I had 4 different types of contracts I would do. Every one of them were 10 years or less. There was nothing above 10 years. And each one of them still gave him a little bit more than what he was going to get when it came to the 315 for 12 years, which is $26.25 million. I said, all right, to put some language in there, and that's going to make it difficult for him to earn every dollar when it came to the language that could be in the deal, where he has to play a certain amount of games and he has to make a certain amount of games per year to get that rest of the money at the end of the contract. What the Mets can do is saying, all right, we'll give you a couple $1 million more per year, which instead of 26 and a quarter, we'll give you $30 million per year, and we'll shorten the contract so it protects us and you get more money in the process. So you basically giving up a little bit of language in the deal with just in case if you get hurt with that ankle, we can actually be protected in that situation. Now, I don't know. I still believe that Correa is going to be a Met. It does not matter how it happens. I still think it's going to happen. I think this is all smoke. If you remember when Correa was looking at the Giants, and right before he was going to sign with the Giants, we didn't know this yet, but we heard that the Mets came in extremely late, higher than the Twins and higher than every other team that was willing to give him a contract. So when that happened, Boras was already really deep in discussions with the Giants, but yet that rumor about the Mets offering him a contract came in very late. Like, for a fact that was leaked out by Boras, probably to get a little bit more money and another year or two from the San Francisco Giants. Now, obviously, that kind of didn't work out with the Giants, but you see the process of what Boras does. Boras is going to leak stuff, and it's weird. Like I've been saying, it's very weird that both sides were actually keeping everything very, very silent. Not on the Mets side, but definitely Boras' side, because he is known, and the one guy he uses a lot is John Heyman. And who posted that first report about another team being involved and the Mets being very frustrated was Andy Martino, who hates the Mets, and John Heyman, who reported that there's another team, there's a little snag in the deal, and now they're talking to another team. That was from John Heyman and Andy Martino, two guys that one does not like the Mets at all. Every report that Andy Martino has ever done has been negative towards the Mets. And John Heyman, who is the puppet of Scott Boras, he's always been that. They have a really good relationship. And then if you watch MLB Hot Stove this morning and even yesterday, Joel Sherman talked about the fact that he still believes this is going to get done. But he did say that it's a power struggle, and this is what they're both doing. And I do understand that it's frustrating for all of us. It's going on to 3 weeks now. It's almost 3 weeks. It's getting very annoying. And I get that. But I do think it's going to happen. No doubt about that. And I want to let everybody know, don't read everything. Don't believe everything you read. Because I was getting texts, messages from everybody, from subscribers to people on Facebook, on the Mets pages. I was getting friends. Everything was sending me all types of links from this guy, that person, this person. When a lot of it is just them getting one report from John Heyman and changing the words. If you look at all the reports, and there is no reason for another team to go to Scott Boras and say, hey, what's going on? This is a Scott Boras move 100%. And he's done this time and time again. He's done it with so many teams. It's amazing that teams don't realize what he's doing. This is his biggest strategy. He probably, when they were discussing things with the Mets, no matter if it was a years or money or language in the deal, the Mets probably said no to something and says, no, we're not going to do that. And he was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. He leaks some stuff out, puts pressure on the Mets, because if you haven't been paying attention, the Mets have all the leverage here. Correa has not much, because if he does not sign with the Mets, I can guarantee you he's going to get a lot less from somewhere else. And if he really wants to be with the Mets, why would he not take less from someone else and not take it with the Mets? JC, I am on Woodhaven. I am. I'm actually in the Wendy's parking lot right now, actually. Speaking of that, because I left work, I'm driving, and I'm like, all right, it's almost 11 o'clock. Let me roll up in the parking lot and hang out. So I got, Panda Express over there. We got Dick's Sporting Goods over there. It would be a nice time for Correa to sign right now, because then I can find my way to Dick's Sporting Goods and be like, hey, you got the shirts? Even though I know they won't. But still. So here we go, guys. What do you think is going to happen? And once again, guys, this is going to be a fairly quick stream, about a half hour or so, just to update everybody. So according to Joel Sherman on MLB Hot Stove, He did it yesterday and he did it today as well. Remember what he says, and it makes so much sense what he says. They've got so deep into in discussion with all of the language, the money, the years, and we still haven't heard anything about that, which is again very weird. I think if Boras was really serious about going to another team and talking seriously to another team, he would have leaked out a hell of a lot more to John Heyman regarding the years, the language, or something like that. Because, and the worst thing Scott Boras wants to do is piss off Steve Cohen, because that's his go-to guy with any player he has. Anytime there's a deal with another team, it was just like in years past when players and agents used to go to the Yankees right before they signed with somebody else saying, hey, can you match this? That's what he's doing right now. And I think it's a big power move and a big tactic by Boras, which he's done time and time and time again. So people are going way too crazy. And again, I think if this deal does not happen, it's the Mets who walk away, who don't want to deal with that stuff. Because let's be honest, guys, the Mets have to move forward. They can't wait around and wait until Correa or Boras decides they're finally going to sign. It's that obvious. You know why? Because of the fact that the Mets, I still believe, still need one more bullpen arm, particularly a lefty. You know, I did that video about Escobar and trading with Gregory Soto. Check that video out, and I explained why that would be a decent move. Even though I don't want to get rid of Escobar, I think he should be the everyday DH. Also, with that, Chafin is another option. There's other guys out there, Fulmer, the Mets were looking into Liam Hendricks, all that fun stuff. And the most important thing to realize is the fact that the Mets, remember, there's still Adam Duvall and Trey Mancini still available. Right before this Correa thing went haywire and the Mets swooped in and agreed to a terms with Correa on December 21st, we were talking about Trey Mancini or Adam Duvall. That has not changed. There is no reason why the Mets can't sign Correa and still sign either Adam Duvall or Trey Mancini. Both guys are versatile. Both can play the outfield. Trey Mancini plays a few more positions than Duvall, but Duvall can also play the outfield. Again, I'm not very fond of Adam Duvall, and that's been well known and well documented. But if it's with Correa, it's a whole different story, because you can platoon Duvall with Vogelback, and you can use Duvall as a lefty, as a platoon in left field, or whoever's hitting at that moment and every shot, put him in left field, and that's what you're going to do with him. And that's something that you can look at. But Adam Duvall alone is not what I want. That's why I'd rather go Trey Mancini, who's more of a average type guy who will hit you about 18 home runs. And I'd rather have Mancini because he can be the backup first baseman. He can play third base. He can play corner outfield. He has other options there. And again, either way, even if we get Correa, I still want that to get down, or to happen, either one of those guys. Because it was been known, the Mets need another bullpen arm. The Mets need a fourth outfielder, and they need to solidify their bench a little bit more. And, they do got to make room on the roster. Joe, the event at Citi Field with the Steve Cohen thing, it's all about the casino. Right? We all know that New York, I don't know if you guys know, but there's been 3 licenses granted for New York State, and it's $500 million a piece to buy that license. That's only to buy the license to go forward with the plan of a casino. And I believe Steve Cohen is one of those people that probably bought one of those licenses, and that's why he's doing this little seminar thing today, which I can't go to. I actually RSVP'd, but I can't go. Things just got a little crazy. I can't go. So, that's something that is probably going to happen around Citi Field, in that whole 50-acre area where it's empty. If you've been to Citi Field, you'll see it. It's a dirt path, a big spot. I think that's where Cohen's going to put the casino. That's just me. But we'll see about that, and that's later down the road. That might take about a year or two, most likely. So, with that said, with Carlos Correa, this deal does not happen, and the only way it does not happen if the Mets walk away. Correa has no leverage. He leaves, he jumps from the table and jumps to another team. Clearly, the other team that does the physical is going to have the same issue And what I don't understand, if he really wants to be a Met, would he take a shorter term deal from with another team when he could have just took a shorter term deal with the Mets and still be part of the Mets if he really wanted to be there? If they let him walk, it's for the best. It's not meant to be. Frank, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, there's too many people. There's enough people that say, "Oh, he's not a great player. He's not." Nobody's saying he's a great player, but he is an all-star. He is a guy that has been one of the clutchest performers in the playoffs in the last 5 to 6 years. That's not debatable. It's facts. Look at his stats. Look at his playoff stats. What was the problem with the Mets once they got in that wild card round? They could not hit. They had so many opportunities with men on base that they didn't have enough run producers. If it wasn't Alonso, if it wasn't Lindor, the runs were not coming in. I'm telling you right now, go check 2019 with Carlos Correa. The only time in his career when the Astros, or the 1 year with the Twins, the 1 year they actually put him in the middle of the lineup, he had 94 RBIs. And he batted around 268. He had 26 home runs, if I'm not mistaken. The best year of his career, statistic-wise, was 2019. Look at his stats during the season. Look where he was in the lineup. He either batted fifth or sixth most of the time. Occasionally, he batted second. But for almost, I believe, it was about 102, 105 games, he batted in the fifth spot or sixth spot. And then check the World Series in 2019. He batted either fifth or sixth every one of those games in 2019. And that's the most important thing that people are not looking at. They look at his stats and like 64 RBIs. How do you think this guy's a run producer? Right? Well, he is. The problem is when you bat second, there is not people in front of you to get on base. You're not expecting your eighth and ninth hitter to have the guys on base all the time. Usually those are the 1 and 2 hitters that are the ones to get on base. And you're not looking to drive in runs because you are the table setters for your big guys behind you. And that's why Correa in his career, when you see 72 RBIs, 64 RBIs, 75 RBIs, but the 1 year he finally got the opportunity to work in the middle of the lineup is when he had his best year. He is a run producer. He loves the big moments. And he was the one guy, no matter what you want to say with cheating or the trash can or whatever you want, he was the one guy that stood up in front of the cameras and supported his teammates. No matter if you agree with that or not, he stood up with his teammates and backed them up every step of the way. And he did not have to do that. And I love the fact that he did that. Not because it was right or wrong what the Astros did. Clearly it was wrong. But the most important thing is that he backed up his players, even though he knew he was wrong. But he still backed them up. Back up your teammates. You always back up your teammates. That goes a long way in the clubhouse. That is a big deal. And I really appreciate the fact that he's done that. And I do think it's going to elevate Lindor's game even more. And I think Lindor's year is not a fluke last year. I think he finally got comfortable in New York. And I think having Correa at third base is going to it's like a competition with friends. You play high school ball, you play college ball. There is no doubt. It's fun. Having competitions like, all right, when I had a friend that was a shortstop and I was the third baseman, we used to make deals. Like, all right, let's see who can make the best play today. Let's see who gets the most hits in the game. And we used to go back and forth. It wasn't money involved. It was just competition. Competition is good. And I think that's a big thing that nobody likes to talk about with that. So, what else can we do to make this deal either happen or walk away? I think best case scenario, they figure this out, we get this deal done, and we move on with our business. About 6 weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting the spring training. That is so important to figure out what you're doing so you can move on, no matter if it's a good thing or a bad thing, Correa or not. You got to move on. So what we've heard the last day or so was the Mets are becoming very frustrated with the Correa side of things, that this deal is not done yet. Also, we heard that people still believe. Now, the people that are writing this is Andy Martino, this was John Heyman. Andy Martino said Mets are very frustrated. Heyman said that there's another team involved and that they're also being frustrated. And he also says that, but he still believes there's a deal to be done. Everybody you talk to, or everybody you see on MLB Network or that tweeted, everybody still believes this deal is getting done. So if they're becoming very frustrated and Boras is talking to other teams, yet they're still talking to each other, then what is the holdup? Either somebody's not budging from one of their stands, or both of them are just putting stuff out there just to get a little bit more leverage to get what they want left in that deal. One, I understand what the doctors are saying, but the doctors are not saying that he's going to be hurt tomorrow. You know, when he's 35, 36 years old, that's what they're worried about. They're worried about his longevity when he gets older and later into that contract. I don't care what anybody says. Once you have a long-term contract of 8 years or more, I always look at it like this, and I think people need to focus on this. When it comes down to the fact that, you see, you have to understand, the most important thing is the fact that it's not the length of the contract. People got to stop going crazy about the length, because there is no contract that is 8 years or more that has ended up good in the last couple of years of the deal. There's not one. So when I look at it in a long-term deal, if you get these guys in your prime, which Correa is, right? 28 to 32 is usually the prime years of your career, right? Or at least that's what it's been for a while. If he has, in a 10-year deal, say it's a 10-year deal, if he has 5 or 6 Correa-type years that everybody expects him to be, you know, all-star, good defensive player, bats 270, gives you 20-plus home runs, around 75 to 90 RBIs, depending on where you're putting them in the lineup, what years do you get from him? If you get 5 or 6 out of 10, that's a good contract. And that's what you have to look at, right? The Aaron Judge contract is going to be a disaster. The Bogarts deal is going to be a disaster. So anybody who got 10, 11, 12 years are all going to be a disaster at the end of it, at least the last couple of years. And that's what you have to look at when it comes to Correa. And I think if you get 5, 6 years out of, even if it's a 12-year deal, give me 5 or 6 years, maybe even 7 years, because now we have the DH. If he can't play the field, and I'm going to tell you this right now, if the ankle is going to be a problem, and it's more about, you know, pivoting left or right when he's on the field, but he can still hit, that's why you got the DH for him. It was such a disadvantage for the National League to never get a guy who was basically done on the field and still can be a bona fide DH and hit for power. That's something that we didn't have in the National League. Now we do. And that's something that you can use that to your advantage. If the final 4 or 5 years, Correa has to be the DH. If the Mets are hanging on to Beatty, well, guess what? You got your third baseman again in Beatty, and you still got Correa, who is still perfectly fine hitting, but he's not the same guy defensively. And that's what you have to look at as well. The most important thing is that we have a DH now as well. We can use that to our advantage in this deal. There was many times where we couldn't do this because of the fact that once this guy couldn't play the field, that's it. The National League teams are screwed. And you have to eat that money, and you get nothing from this guy. So you have to play him on the field to get the bat that still works. All right, guys, I'm trying to read the comments, but I'm on my phone right now, and it's not easy to read the comments. I'm not going to lie to you. One, I agree with that, but sometimes you have to take risk. If you're gonna take a risk with a 38 and a 39-year-old pitcher that is the two guys at the top of your rotation, then you got to take risk, right? You're in a win now position. You're in a win now position. Cohen says winning the World Series within 5 years, right? That was a couple years ago. We're in year 3. That's it. And that's where we are now. Not saying you have to give 12 years and the other 4 years are going to be a disaster. Understandable, but you're in win now mode. You didn't sign Verlander and Scherzer the last 2 years to win 6 years from now. That's not the case. You're still going to have a chance to win 6 years from now because you got Cohen, and you hope your young stars or your young prospects are going to turn out. But again, we're worrying about prospects when we're in win now mode. And again, the same people who talk about Alvarez, right? The same people who want Ohtani and who wanted Devers, which that fell apart for a lot of people that wanted Devers all this time. You were going to trade 2, possibly 3 top 5 prospects, which would have probably been Alvarez, probably been Beatty, and pick another one, Alex Ramirez. So you're going to give three of those top prospects, and you had to pay Rafael Devers. And the same thing with Ohtani. So the Mets are not doing that. The Mets have a huge chance to get Ohtani, and they would have had a huge chance to get Devers if they really wanted them at this point. But with Ohtani, people keep on bringing up Ohtani. The Ohtani thing is not happening this offseason. If the Angels fall apart in the first half of the season, then the trade deadline, we could talk about Ohtani because of the fact that Artie Moreno is going to be selling the team, right? The Angels, besides the Mets, have been very active in this offseason, right? They didn't make big signings, but they made quality signings. I think they made like 4 or 5 quality signings with pitching and stuff like that. And I do think the fact that the Angels are trying to get better in their rotation because that's been their big problem. They're going to go at least the first half with Trout and Ohtani. Rendon should be coming back. They're going to try one last effort to do something here, and that's what Artie Moreno is doing. Because Artie Moreno, after this year, is selling the team. He's already in the process of doing that. If the first half is a complete disaster and there's no chance of the Angels to catch the Astros or the Rangers or the Mariners, and they're 4th in the division and they're not going nowhere, that's when we can talk about it at the deadline about Ohtani. Other than that, there is no point right now to trade 3 of your 5 top prospects because that's what it is going to take. Moreno is not going to trade Ohtani for a bag of balls and a glove and any moron you want to not want on the Mets give to the Angels. It's just not happening. No, D, you're not listening, guys. You're not listening. I'm talking about before Devers signed the deal. I didn't want Devers. I've said that from the beginning. Everybody kept on saying Devers, but they're the same people who wanted Devers were the same people that didn't want to trade any prospects last year to help the team win a championship. And no name, exactly my point. That's the biggest problem. It's not about wanting those guys. Any fan of a team would want Ohtani or Devers or Trout. The problem is, Trout, different story. But, with his back problem and all the injuries he's had, to give up 3 top 5 prospects is going to be tough and take on that contract. The problem that I have is you're going to trade your prospects that you weren't willing to trade last deadline to get better when you were a top 5 team in the league and were a big contender for a World Series. You did not want to trade any of your top 25 prospects to get better. Epler said that. That's the most important thing to realize. Epler said he patted himself on the back after the deadline when the Mets only got Ruff and Givens. He said the fact that they were happy that they didn't give up any of their top 25 prospects. Well, if they had that mindset going into the trade deadline, you were getting absolutely nothing of importance to help your team. So they did not help the team. The team that was one of the best couple of teams in baseball, you didn't want to give up any prospects in your top 25 to get better. So why would the Mets all of a sudden, who always talk about their farm system now, who didn't want to trade at the deadline when you had one of the best teams in baseball. You didn't want to do it then, but now you want to give up prospects for Ohtani, who is in the rental until you sign him. There's no guarantee that, because you can't say, oh, it's going to be a sign and trade. They don't do that no more. They used to, but they don't do that no more. It's the same thing with Lindor. The Mets traded for him. The Lindor negotiations went on for about 2 weeks until they officially signed him. Right? There's no guarantee that Ohtani, and I don't even know why Ohtani would sign once he would get traded to a team. Because why wouldn't he want more teams bidding for him? So there's no guarantee that you're going to sign him while you have him on your team. So you're trading your 3 of your top 5 prospects for a rental and no guarantee that he's going to sign you. What if you trade for him, Ohtani doesn't like New York, and now you just gave up your top 3 prospects in your farm system, and now you lose Ohtani because he doesn't like New York? Now you're screwed. Because now the people you wanted to replace, because then Escobar is gone, Canna is gone, right? You're losing out on guys that you actually need now, because Beatty and Alvarez and possibly Alex Ramirez, who I think might actually be a possibility for the outfield in 2024, those guys are gone. They're on the Angels now. Now we're screwed. 110% about too many people are looking down on the Mets farm system. You know who's overrated every single year? The Yankees. Why a team still trades with the Yankees is beyond me. Everybody, it's beyond me. 100% behind me. Beyond me, because they overhype their prospects, and yet they still have teams that are stupid enough to trade with the Yankees, and these guys never turn out. The only prospect that actually turned out for anything is Judge. Everybody else is either floating around or just complete garbage or out of baseball. And people are like, oh, the Mets farm system is dead. But yet, not even 5 years ago, we still had DeGrom, we still had Match, we still had Wheeler, Nimmo, Alonso, McNeil. Nito, he's a backup catcher, but he's a big part of this team, right? You even look at that. At one point, it was Rosario and Jimenez. All these guys, if they're not on the Mets, they're on other teams now, doing well. Justin Turner, one of the best moves the Dodgers ever made was picking him up, and now he was a really good player for many years. And I think it's important to actually look at that. And yes, Cohen is going to be at Citi Field today doing that Queens seminar thing to see get people's ideas of what they want to do with that 50 acres of land that is part of the Citi Field area property. And I do think that the reason why he's doing this is I think he already has his mind made up, but because Cohen is just a fan of Met fans, he wants to hear what they have to say. And maybe an idea that one Met fan brings up might actually turn him around about, oh, maybe I'll do this instead. Because of the fact that I think he's buying one of those casino licenses that New York State approved 3 of them for $500 million a piece. And that's only to get the license to start the plan of building a casino. And I think that's what he's going to do, because he was already talking about that. It's free, Ray. It's free. It's just you got to pick a time slot. So I don't know if Cohen's going to be there at night or during the day. It's a Saturday, so he might be there all day. I don't know. So I don't know. But that's what I know about that. Before he even bought the Mets, he was interested in developing or getting a group of people to develop a casino. Jay, that would be great if Correa does that WWE entrance at that little concession seminar thing that they're doing at Citi Field. That would be pretty cool. So, with that said, guys, we're going to end it right here. But remember, yeah, Ray, it's free. 100% free. Gates, I agree. The Correa deal has nothing to do with Ohtani. But for the people that were clamming for the Mets to trade for either Devers or Ohtani, makes no sense when you can just buy him next year. Now Devers is off the table. Steven, I didn't forget Derek Jeter. I'm not talking about 30 years ago, 25 years ago. I'm talking about over the last 6, 7 years when people said the Mets farm system was crap, but yet the Mets actually had more players on their team that lasted or went to another team and succeeded. And the Yankees prospects either fell off the face of the earth or basically bench players on other teams and players that can't even stay in the majors. And the only successful one was Aaron Judge. And again, that's why when people before the offseason started, I in my top 20 free agents, I had the Mets getting about 5 or 6 of them, and guess what? They got 5 of them. It turned out if they do get Correa, because of the fact they had to replace all the free agents that were currently free agents from their team the previous year, and a lot of their free agents were key players on their team last year. So they have to replace them. They couldn't just trade to replace everybody. That doesn't make sense. So they had to spend, even if they brought back DeGrom, Bassett, Walker, Nimmo, and Lugo, and Ottavino, and May, they would have still spent a ton of money, probably almost the same amount, maybe a little less, but they would spend just as much just to get their players back. And even though they got different players, they had to replace them. And that's something where it's like, why not they use all the money you can, which there's no salary cap, there's only a penalty and paying a fine and paying the luxury tax. If Cohen's willing to do that, you get to save your prospects and make your team better. And I do understand that Correa and Boras, and again, I think all this posturing is from Boras because Boras knows he does not have the leverage. And I think the only way he can get a little bit of leverage against the Mets is to be leaking out this stuff that we heard over the last 24 to 36 hours. And now that he has it out there now, I would be shocked if you don't hear that the Mets and Boras are seriously trying to finish up this deal. And it's crazy because this is unprecedented. This is craziness. But in my opinion, before I end the stream, guys, I do expect Correa to be on the Mets. I have no idea what the contract's going to be anymore. I gave my predictions in my Correa video about 4 days ago. If you want to look at it, and I gave 4 possible deals. It was all 10 years or less. It was I think it was from 6, 7 to 10. And I think that's something that the Mets want to do, but we also have to know that it's up to Correa as well. And don't forget two big parts of this. MLB and MLBPA have to approve of the deal. MLB has to approve the deal. Excuse me. Has to approve the deal. And I think MLB will. But MLBPA, they're not going to focus on the money and the years, because if the player and the agent agrees to the years and the money, then they're not really going to care about that. But what they're going to do is make sure the language in the deal to protect the Mets is within the limits of the CBA. And that's where you got to look out. It's not about the Mets and the Correa agreeing to a deal. It has to fit in the bubble, basically, of the CBA, of the language. It can't be anything that the Mets just thought of and Boras said fine, and it's not a part of the CBA. If it's not a part of the CBA, they're going to deny it. But we are going to see exactly what's going on, and I do understand that it's frustrating. And if this deal does not happen, it's because the Mets finally said enough of this, and they're walking away. With that said, guys, I'll be back on tonight, 6 p.m. for Mets Hot Stove Live. I'm going to introduce you to my co-host, Baseball Mike. He's going to introduce himself. You guys can ask some questions. I'm going to ask him a few questions just so guys can get to know him a little bit more, and how we became friends and how we met and all that stuff like that. It's a really cool story. It's fun. It's going to be interesting to have another opinion on this channel, but it's going to be a back and forth. You ever watch a back and forth type of show? Undisputed, First Take, Around the Horn, all that fun, all those debate shows. That's what we're going to have here. So we will see what goes on with Correa. Hopefully, we get more news and at least clarity of what the hell's going on. But the Mets need to make a decision. Get the hell out if you're not going to have anything happen. So, with that said, I'll see you guys 6 o'clock tonight. Me and Mike are gonna hang out for a few minutes tonight. He's not gonna stick around, or if he wants to, he can. But Sunday's gonna be the day when we do our show. So, with that said, everybody, see you 6 o'clock tonight. Let's hope we get some clarity with Correa and the Mets, either good or bad. We got to move on eventually. With that said, everybody, as always, let's go Mets. See you tonight, guys. Let's go, baby.
Teamwork to make the dream work. Come on! Let's go! We got the teamwork to make the dream work. Let's go. We're gonna make it this time. We're gonna take